Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson. We got a really special treat today. We're going to be talking with Ira Edwards from Palmer, Alaska. And we've been following Ira for a while. And man, wait till you hear his story. But first, Mike, what's going on in South Carolina, brother?
Man, it's always something. So yesterday we spent a little time developing some flower gardens around some of our oak trees and planting azaleas and some stuff just to add some whimsical and some beauty. Get people out of their head and home. And sometimes it takes that little extra pop of color. So we were doing that yesterday, trying to beat the heat and catch it before the rain got in. But that and we're trying to make sure everything's going good with the dove fields. Everybody's planting up some sunflowers and trying to do some weeding on those. But man, it's always something this time of year, isn't it?
Man, it's really weird that you're doing the same exact thing in South Carolina as we're doing here in Pennsylvania. Beth was cutting grass yesterday, and we got a lot of poison ivy coming up around the barn this year. So
Man,
we got to spray that. And then she was talking about buying a flamethrower. So
yep,
I know I
yep,
have the best wife in the world when she's buying a flamethrower
yes, sir.
to get the weeds out of the driveway. So that's our plan this weekend is to burn some weeds in the driveway and spray for some poison ivy.
Cook them off, man. That's kind of what we're doing, and why we're doing it the way we are around the oak trees and whatnot is this year poison ivy's just going crazy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ira, man, thanks for coming on the podcast today. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I've been watching your guys' podcast for quite a while now. I'm actually caught up on all the episodes now.
Oh,
Hey, there
fantastic,
you
man.
go. Good stuff, man.
Well,
We truly appreciate that, Ira.
we've been following you for a long time, man, and you just you're out there making it happen, and you've really inspired a lot of people. I mean, not just in Alaska, but all over the country and all over the world.
Yeah.
You're really out there. But for the folks that have not followed you on Instagram or Facebook, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name is Ira Edwards. I'm not quite a lifelong Alaskan, but I moved there in '83, so I've been there most of my life. I'm 51 years old now. I have had a lot of careers. I was just telling you guys, I've worked in the ski industry for 28 years now as my side job. But I started out my professional life as a wildlife biologist. Did some more schooling, worked on shellfish and salmon and fisheries for most of my research career. And then I did other odd jobs, did some IT work, a lot of construction work. And then I got sick of all the poaching through my biology career and moved into law enforcement. I'm a type 1 diabetic, so I could never get into the military. So I have a lot of family have done military service, but that was never in my cards. But definitely helping the wildlife enforcement side was something that always interested me. But I was 35 when I did that. So I went through the Alaska State Trooper Academy, got myself on the State Trooper show for an episode, which was one of those popular TV shows for a while.
Yeah, good stuff.
Also, I'm probably the only guy that's also been on the Deadliest Catch doing crab research. So
Wow.
I've been on reality shows, although I look just like everyone else. I'm either wearing a uniform or wearing orange rain gear. Um, and yeah, a couple of years into that, I was working in the backcountry, clearing out some debris after a storm right before Thanksgiving. And there were trees all across the trails, and we were clearing all the down trees. And there was a what they call a widowmaker, a tree that's broken in
Yeah.
half, and it was blocking the trail. And we were getting ready to remove that, and the tree broke and squished me. I mean, we had all kinds of safety plans in place, but accidents happen.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So my spinal cord injury was a small part of my injuries. Trees are heavy and they break lots of things. But my SCI, I'm a T9 incomplete paraplegic. I'm essentially a T12 complete paraplegic. Uh,
Gotcha.
Thanks to some therapies, I can sort of feel some skin down to my knee, but can't really do anything with it. Uh, And but yeah, I also had compression fractures, and they say there's no nerve damage, but my arm's numb half the time
Yes,
from
sir.
C2 to T4. So I got accordioned, um, got pile driven into the ground and squished. So that was 2010. So it's been a couple of years now, and yeah, I am did some public policy work for a while after my injury, working for the state of Alaska and some land use planning. And, people don't always like you when you change the way they recreate or do a land use or even change public policy. So I was fortunate and got hired by the USDA. A friend of mine I kept asking her for research data, and she asked me if I just wanted to help make that data and go to work for her. So yeah, I work as a in the soil and plant science division for the USDA, and Alaska's kind of the last frontier. Not a lot's been studied or researched at all up here because it's so big. We're just over 20% of the landmass of the whole USA, and if you took us away, we're about a third the size of the lower 48 states. We're bigger
Yeah.
Amazing.
than the 17 smallest states together.
That's one good thing about it. You're all over the place, Ira, and it seems like a jack of all trades. But like you said, Alaska is the last frontier. So you guys are always on the cutting edge of trying to make it happen. And the stuff you're doing, man, is phenomenal. So keep it up, man. We're giving you kudos across the board.
Yeah, and Alaska is kind of unique because we're a new state. I mean, we're not the newest state like Hawaii, but
Right.
there was not much here before they discovered oil in the 60s, and then they built a pipeline in the 70s. And I cannot remember the name of the pre-ADA Disability Act that Congress had in the mid 70s, but everything, pretty much all the infrastructure in Alaska was built since then. So and Alaska's a lot of swamps. So they've filled in swamps to make towns. So
Yeah.
everything's kind of flat. I mean, there's tons of mountains and everything everywhere, but most of the valleys are glacier valleys or they filled in swamps. So everything's kind of flat where most people live. So Alaska is actually fairly accessible on all the things. And then, of course, you get airplanes, side by sides, trains, buses, and all that kind of stuff.
I was in Alaska in the mid 90s and was in Anchorage, and I was just amazed, how everything was laid out. And
Mm.
this was whenever I was able-bodied, but I can remember going to the Elks Lodge in Anchorage and having a cold beverage and hanging out there and doing some of the brew pubs and things like that. And it's just such a beautiful little place.
Yeah, that Elks Lodge got bought out by a different brewery, and but the deck they had on top was pretty amazing. You can look at the mountains on the sunset.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then you had mentioned glaciers, and you were kind of climbing glaciers as a diabetic, and the doctors were kind of giving you a hassle about that. You had to kind of come up with some adaptations, right?
Yeah, I'm on an insulin pump now, and things are better. It's kind of crazy to think it's been, I guess, 36 something years since I've had diabetes. When I started out, we were still using pig and cow insulin that they extracted with a centrifuge. Now we have bacterial recombinant DNA that extrudes or the bacteria extrude the insulin. So things are a lot more stable and they work better these days. But yeah, you had to keep stuff from freezing when you were climbing. I have not climbed in Denali. I've
Yeah.
seen the summit from very close to the summit 3 times, but either ran out of food or been weathered out and never quite made it to the top. But I've been to the top of most of the other tall mountains in Alaska and spent a lot of time playing in cold weather. And I love to ski, so I'm always outside in the cold. So yeah, used to have to keep a little neck pouch around my neck to keep the insulin from freezing, and then keep needles in that. But an insulin pump makes it a lot easier these days.
That's one of the kickers, man, with paralysis. A lot of people don't understand. We have a lot of trouble adjusting core temperatures and what. And I don't know how the paralysis side works for you guys that are paras. Us quads, man, we're always like lizards, Hyra. We're looking for sun and trying to warm up, and it's all we can do to stay warm. And I can't imagine being in a place like Alaska. I don't mind the 30. It's just that little tick you guys get in front of it. The little minus sign kind of throws me off.
Yeah, I was joking with that with some friends, and this spring, I think Greg told me it was really cold for you guys. But it was in the high 70s and 80s for almost 2 months this year. We're
Wow.
cold and we're cold and rainy now, but you guys are complaining about that there, but we don't have as high humidity as you got, so
Yeah.
it's not as miserable when it's that warm.
Yeah.
It's definitely good for your garden, right?
Yeah, we get Alaska. So I'm sure if Mike's brother has told him, the state fair up here has the Guinness Book of World Records for the giant vegetables for pretty much everything. The largest pumpkin is now someone in the Netherlands got it, but we had like a 2,700 pound pumpkin that got beat out. But all the other vegetables, we have the Guinness Book of World Records for the largest ones because it's so much sunlight in the summer.
You
Wow.
know, Ira, that was one of the things that just blew my mind is all the festivities and stuff that go along. It doesn't matter what the weather's doing. When they have these ice road deals and they're bringing all these food trucks, that if for somebody that hasn't been there like that, that's just mind blowing that it doesn't matter how much weather comes in. You guys just make it work.
Yeah, the ice road stuff is interesting. That's used for oil field
Yeah,
construction, and I think there's a TV show about that. Most of that's in Canada,
yeah,
but the ice roads they pump water out of some lakes that are fed by rivers and rainfall, and once the ground is frozen, but that's like if you look at a map of Alaska, that's like the top
mm,
3 to 5% of the
yeah,
height in Alaska. So it's not a real common thing, but in land management, it was important to make sure they didn't take out too much water. Because if you got
yeah,
a permit to take out 7.5 million gallons and every oil company took out that much, that's too much. And then the fish get damaged.
Yes, sir.
But
Yes,
uh,
sir.
but yeah, it's where I am, it's the Midwest is way worse than it is here. I mean, it's 30 below is abnormally cold, 0 is pretty cold. Um, yeah, and most of the summer it's in the high 60s to 70s, and we get a few weeks of this year it came early, like in April and May, we were in the 80s. Um,
Wow.
wow.
and, yeah, but it never gets in the 90s either, so it's kind of comfortable.
I know in college you were a skier, and I've kind of read up about you over the years. And one of the first things you said after your accident was that you would ski again. And that's the mentality that you have, and you project it. Could you talk a little bit about right after the injury, how you wanted to get back outdoors and how you accomplished that?
Yeah, and this is kind of something that's driven me. When I was first in the hospital, I had volunteered. We have an adaptive sports program up here in Alaska called Challenge Alaska, and they're one of the very few, and it all started back in the 80s, getting people outdoors. And it was mostly a ski program. So I used to volunteer with them, and after high school, I helped construction and built their building that they have at the ski resort. And I just volunteered, but I never volunteered with the physically disabled people. It was more like the special needs kids and stuff like that. But I had seen the guys in sit ski, so I knew that was possible. But I didn't have any experience with what that meant at all. And I really honestly, either had ignored it or they just didn't exist. Never seen hand cycles or sit other types of adaptive stuff or even uh, anything like that. I knew one guy in a wheelchair. He was one of my college ski team. His brother broke his neck playing rugby, and he's like I guess a quad that can incomplete quad, but he can push a manual wheelchair. So he's not as bad as some people could be. Um,
Right.
so he gave me a lot of help on how to what to do and how to get around. But when I was an inpatient, nobody ever really told me life could be fun again. And so
Yeah.
I sort of knew that skiing was available, but I hunted and fished and camped and hiked in the mountains and did all those things. And I was a pretty dedicated non-motorized user. So I went farther away just to get away from people. So I didn't know what was in my future. So I've had a lot of friends help get me out. A bunch of foundations help me out. especially on the sports side. There's a group called the High Fives Foundation. They're out of Truckee, and the guy that started that was a Rossignol athlete. He worked for was an athlete for a company called Dynastar. It's one of our ski brands we own. And oh yeah, we didn't say I work for Rossignol Skis as well as my side job as a scientist.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I they helped me out getting a hand cycle, and that got me back outdoors. But that was almost a year after my injury, so I didn't have any adaptive equipment for almost a year. Now, granted, I was in the hospital for 6 months, but um, yeah, it was a hard first year. But a lot of people helped me out, so that's kind of what gave me the impetus to help other people.
And
Yeah.
one of the things was you had buddies that took you out with your hand cycle. They like scheduled it, right? So that you got to train and you went out every day for like 70 days on your hand cycle.
Yeah, and this is an unfortunate reality of having a traumatic injury. My marriage of 10 years ended after I got out of the hospital, which
Yep.
came as a complete shock to me. But yes, I was down on my luck. You lose a relationship, you also lose the income for that, and your expenses don't really go down.
Right.
Exactly.
So I cut every corner I could and paid my bills barely. But yeah, I was trying to stay healthy and trying to get back to living. And yeah, I was fortunate enough that I had for 70 different days, I had a friend come on a bike ride with me after work, and uh, and I wasn't really back to work full time for over a year. But yeah, I tried to get out every day and do something. Unfortunately, that came with a six pack of beer every day. So that ended up not helping my overall health, but we cut back on the drinking fairly shortly after that.
There you go.
Sometimes it's about that rediscovery, right? You got to reinvent yourself after the accident. And, if the drinking's in the way, then, we got to move it. But at the same token, sometimes it fuels you. You got to find those little luxury items that cue it up. But what other kind of adaptive devices have you used over the years, Ira? Because I know right before we started, you were just celebrating year what you said 26 of being with the ski group or 28?
Yeah, so I started working for Rosinal in 1999, so I'm coming up on 28 years
Wow.
working for in the ski industry, and then I work with a ski wax and tool company called Toco. So they're both very old brands, very well known, and well respected in the outdoor community. But none of the real major sporting goods companies make anything adaptive. That's just the way it is. Um, so I about a year after I got injured, I got a Nordic sit ski, and that's
Yeah.
my main focus. I was a Nordic skier. I'm built like a football player now from pushing a wheelchair around, but I was 6'5", 250 pounds, and wore a size large t-shirt. So I was just tall and athletic. Like now I wear a double X and fill it out pretty well.
Big shoulders.
Granted, I got about 10 pounds to lose in my gut, but that's my shoulders.
Right.
I had to buy a suit for my brother's wedding a couple of years ago and went from a 44 suit to a 58. So my
Wow.
shoulders gained a couple inches.
Right.
Um,
I blame
yeah,
mine on quad gut.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I start losing my function at T9, so I've got some of the quad gut. Not at least that's
Yeah.
what I'm blaming it as.
Hey
But
man, jump in there. We got to do what we got to do, right?
um, but yeah, I got a hand cycle the next year after I got hurt. And then that was kind of an all-terrain one. I got snow tires, mountain bike tires, and skinny tires for it. And they're expensive, and I got some grant funding to help out with it, but I did a lot of local fundraising. So I had to get one that was good enough for everything, but not great at anything. Um, and then through there's another group besides the High Fives called the Kelly Brush Foundation, and then there's
Yeah.
one called
Yes.
the Challenged Athletes Foundation.
Yes, sir.
And through them, I got another hand cycle a couple years later, and then and I never really alpine skied. I backcountry skied and I telemark skied, but we joked about becoming the world's first telemark sit skier, except that means you have a free heel, so it's a lot of face plants on a sit ski. So we decided against that. So I use alpine bindings now, which I've never done before. So I can still joke that I've never worn alpine boots, and nothing wrong with alpine skiers. It just, as a backcountry granola crunching type of skier, I wasn't a part of that crowd. So,
There you go.
but a ski movie company called Teton Gravity Research used to have a discuss. Well, they still sort of do. It's a different group that runs it now. Had an online forum. This is before we had Facebook or anything like that. You had discussion forums, and they had like 50,000 members. And word got out that and enough money showed up in my PayPal account in like less than a week to buy an alpine sit ski. And even 16 years ago, that was over $10,000 still.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one of the big things is, Ira, you've found a way to pay for this equipment through grants or through fundraising. But what you're kind of leaving off is how much money you've raised for other charities. And over the years, it's, well over $250,000, and how you're educating the people around you that you can still do all these things. It's finding a way. A lot of times we speak with people that say, well, adaptive equipment is so expensive, I can't do it. And they just take no for an answer. Well, obviously, that's not the case for you. You found a way to still be able to do the things that you love to do.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of six kids, and even though my dad was a nurse and he had a fairly good job, uh, six kids are expensive, even back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Oh yeah.
So we were significantly below the poverty level at that point. So we didn't have a lot of things growing up. And I just learned early on how to make things work.
Yep.
Mowed lawns, a bunch of neighbors bought my first shotgun when I was 12 years old. I still have that Mossberg pump shotgun. It works great still, 40
Yeah.
years later now. Yeah, so I kind of had the mindset that you have to make things work no matter what. And then I worked in the middle of nowhere doing field research. And, Murphy's Law applies very well in Alaska when things get dangerous, things break. So you got to learn how to fix things, weld things. And I know how to weld as well. But you just got to be able to make it work no matter what. So I have the work and life experience and then the mental mindset just that's what you got to do. So I don't think a lot of other people do that. And I've met a lot of people in wheelchairs that kind of give up. And I
Yeah.
have done as much as I can to go back to hospitals. I have a bunch of therapists and doctor friends that refer me, and they can't, thanks to HIPAA getting more rigid, you can't really tell me what it is. But my one friend, she runs physical therapy and occupational therapy at a major hospital up here, and she's like, well, if you show up at 3 o'clock on floor 3 in the West Wing, there might be a guy you should meet. And that,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that I end up meeting a lot of brand new injuries that way,
Good.
giving them a pep talk and showing them all the fun things. And I've failed a lot in a lot of things, so I've learned that you can't promise things, but if you show people
Mm.
what's possible, they might be able to figure it out.
Right. It's about
Um,
not giving up on anything and just finding new ways to do it. Everything we could do prior to, other than walk, we just do it a little different.
yeah, I
And
joke with my coworkers, I'm just across the hall. I'll be there in a hop, skip, and a jump, except I can't hop,
Right.
skip, and jump.
Right. Right.
but
Um, yeah.
guys, life is hard with a spinal cord injury or
Sure.
any significant disability, and I can see why a lot of people, don't believe in themselves, that they're kind of beaten down from the system, and they get denied on insurance claims, and
Right.
everything's a fight. It's not easy, but there is hope. And guys like you, Ira, you kind of put that out there that there is hope if you're willing to work
Set the
for it.
tone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so and you asked about fundraising. There's an adaptive sports group up here that helped me get back to skiing with the instruction side. I mean, I had to come up with my own equipment. I'm gorilla size, so none of their program equipment fit me. Um,
Right.
and even though I was thinner back then and not quite as muscular, I still at 6'5", you don't fit much.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so Challenge Alaska really helped me out. So I've done a lot of fundraising for them. They have a couple of big fundraisers every year. And for a local group, they do really well. They do cycling, skiing, archery, soccer, wheelchair rugby, uh, paddle sports, and then they take people out water skiing in the summer too. And the lakes are warm enough. You generally don't need a wetsuit some of the time. So
Yeah.
it's not super cold, but you don't want to spend all your time in the water.
No.
And then other groups like Kelly Brush Foundation and High Fives, I've helped with fundraisers. And then one of my big passions, we talked about that I like skiing. I was caught in an avalanche when I was in high school snowboarding, and it was pretty sucky. I didn't get buried or killed, luckily. But I was stuck in the snow because a snowboard's kind of like a dead man anchor because I was stuck
Yeah.
up to my waist, and it took me an hour to get myself out, and
Wow.
that wasn't very fun. And then in my 20s and 30s, I skied in the backcountry all the time. So I've had friends that have passed away because of avalanches and poor
Yeah.
decision making. And then I've dug out some dead people and I've dug out some people that lived. So that kind of affected me a lot. Since I started working for Rosganol, I every year I show some ski movies and use 100% of the proceeds from that to fund avalanche safety and avalanche forecasting. So we have an
Yeah.
avalanche school that people can take lessons and learn about snow safety. And the forecasting centers are there's a couple nonprofits that do it, and then there's one that they're employed by the U.S. Forest Service, but the nonprofit group that funds them buys the snow machines and the snow monitoring equipment and the satellite telemetry and all of that stuff. So it's still expensive to get out. But yeah, I do a lot of fundraising on that, and I do have a snow machine now, so it's not really an adaptive device, but it still sort of is because I call it my new climbing skins. To go in the backcountry, people put these one-way mohair skins on their skis so they can ski up the trails. Well, my new climbing skins have 850 cc's and 3-inch paddles. So
There you go,
Eh,
brother. There you
You know,
go.
it gets down to that's just the epitome of people in Alaska, right? You got to be self-sufficient. You got to make it work. You got to find ways to just keep making it grind out. Here Ira is, he's got a whole new machine now. He's gonna make it work. And
Well,
that's what I love, man. This guy is all over the place, and that's awesome, man.
he's not only in Alaska, Mike.
Oh
He,
no, heck no.
he's an African hunter as well.
There
And
you go.
I seen a picture of you with a bison too, and that's like my dream hunt is to go on a bison hunt someday. But let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of your hunting and some of your travels with that.
yeah, my first hunting after I really didn't know how I was going to be able to do, and I build custom rifles, and back then I didn't, but I did precision shooting, and I got pretty much 12 inches of steel on my back. I'm bolted from T8 to L3,
Yeah,
and I have a really stiff neck from compression fractures from C2 to T4. So the normal way, the old school way to shoot was you'd put the rifle in the crotch of your armpit and lean over and shoot. Uh, I got so much steel in my back I couldn't do that. So I would hit very consistently, but it'd be like 5 o'clock on the targets. So not really the way to do that. Um, but yeah, so I relearned how to shoot again, and I'm a NRA rifle instructor, and I have a fair amount of tactical work through my law enforcement training. And I used to ski race and do biathlon, which is cross country skiing and shooting. So that's learning how to shoot very, very accurately under high stress. Because when you're skiing really hard in cross country, you're working your heart out like crazy. And in biathlon, you have a 4 centimeter target with open sights at 50 meters. So that's less than 2 inches in open sights. So that's you got it. And you see those guys in the Olympics, they're putting their ski poles down and getting their ski poles up and back up in less than 15 seconds for 5 shots. So you got to learn how to shoot accurately. Um,
Wow.
so again, I think I was telling you guys beforehand, Alaska is still the only state in the country without any hunting opportunities for people with physical disabilities.
yeah,
There are a few disabled veterans hunts, and most of them, and I think Mike, you're a veteran,
yeah,
but having a disability with the VA doesn't necessarily mean you have a physical disability.
right.
And I've known guys that were 100% disabled that ran Boston Marathon under 3 hours.
Yeah,
So there's all kinds of disabilities, but they're not all physical mobility disorders.
there you go.
Um, So yeah, Alaska doesn't really have any opportunities like that, but there's a place with the Army Corps engineer. They somehow back in the early 90s built some wheelchair accessible log cabin. It's a dry cabin, no running water or anything, but then their office facility has showers and is all ADA. And I got a moose cow permit for you guys. It's a doe tag,
Right.
and got invited to go up and hunt with them. The tags up here are all lottery systems, so it's you put in. So I put in for 3 years to get that, and it's the same as everyone else. I was applying with all the rest of the crowd. But yeah, so I ended up getting a doe. It was a 290-yard shot.
Wow.
But the doe, being a cow moose, there's still like almost 300 pounds of meat off of it. Uh,
Yeah.
Wow.
so that I mean, nothing up here is really small.
No.
We don't really have any poisonous insects or snakes, and not much in the way of poisonous plants. But there's big things that'll try to kill you.
Yes, sir.
And you guys are loaded down with a lot of small ones too. You would think as cold as it gets, the mosquito population wouldn't be as what it is. But man,
Oh,
it seems like those cold places, dude, they are loaded.
yeah. The joke is, and it's a real joke, but so it doesn't seem like it sometimes that the mosquitoes will carry away pets and small children.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Um, but
You
yeah,
better
so
stake them down.
I got a moose again using the rifle I've had since the 90s. I used to shoot a 300 Winchester, and then I had my grandfather's 280 Remington, which was a Remington 7 millimeter Express. They did back in the 70s and 80s, and people started putting express bullets in Magnum rifles and blowing themselves up. So they
Yeah.
changed the name back to a 280 Remington. And neither of those was really great for precision shooting. I mean, I was comfortable out to 400 or 500 meters. Uh, but then now that I'm in a wheelchair, I drive a machine. And I went with friends for several years, but you can't really sneak up on anything if you're driving a side by side.
Yeah.
You guys have track chairs, and those are quite a bit quieter, but then we have so many swamps, and they don't really work in uneven terrain, rough terrain, swamps or anything like that.
Right.
They're better for flat ground and trails and getting around in low traction areas. And I've used a track chair quite a bit, so I've definitely learned the limitations. Don't go over a 6 inch log very fast because it's
Right.
like trying to cast you out of it with a fishing rod when you go over the other side of the log.
Oh,
It's a
man.
new way to ride a bull, that's for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, boys.
I didn't learn that the first time, and I didn't really have a seatbelt on, so
You learned the
I
hard
only,
way.
yeah, well, luckily I was strong enough to not fall out, but almost.
Oh,
But yeah, so I got a moose fairly shortly after my accident, and that was a lot of work to do that. But I was fortunate that the Army Corps engineer had a facility, and they gave me access to essentially a closed area. They don't allow the public on their dam facility, uh,
Right.
and but they let me drive across, and they had a blind you could roll into, and then they just let me drive across, which was great. So nobody else could go there. Um, and yeah, so then I ended up getting some other drawing permits and got a caribou and a moose another year with some friends, and they took me out in their
Nice.
side by side out into the backcountry, and that was really nice because they took time out of their hunting season
Yeah.
to go in an area, and I went into a non-motorized area, so you had to get a special permit from the Department of Fish and Game to be able to go back there. I used to hunt there all the time, but I use a bicycle and a kiddie trailer to hunt and haul my camp in, and then haul the caribou out. So I had hunted this area a lot, but again, then all of a sudden you're excluded because you have a disability because I can't pedal bike
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And it's a climb. I mean, it's a grind. You're in the area to get to the hunting grounds. It's 7, 8 miles and about 3,000 feet of climbing, and that's just to
wow.
get to where the animals start. So that's not really physically possible on a hand cycle, um, especially hauling a bunch of camp gear. Now we have
Right.
e-bikes, but e-bikes aren't allowed in non-motorized area because they have a motor.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
been a big thing. When e-bikes came out, they had to change the laws to make sure you weren't hunting in a non-motorized area with a motorized vehicle.
Right.
And I got an e-bike last year, so I love it. But I still understand that it's an advantage if you're going over someone that's hunting totally on foot. So they have a couple of non-motorized areas, and I've gotten permits to go drive into those areas in a side by side. But again, that took time away from my buddies to go in hunting because they can't hunt there. Only for people with
Right?
physical abilities can you use a motor vehicle in a non-motorized area. Um, and the state of Alaska doesn't like to issue those. And now I found out because I've been taking other people hunting, they won't issue them to new people anymore, which I'm going to work on some policy work to hopefully make that change. But
Yes.
yeah, so I've been able to get caribou and get some moose, and then in 2016, so 10 years ago, I drew a tag for bison. Now, for a non-resident in Alaska, bison is a once in a lifetime species. For an Alaska
Yeah.
resident, you can only get it every 10 years if you draw one. So I applied again this year and didn't draw. But it took me 32 years to draw the first tag. It is the
Wow.
most popular tag to draw. And and our herd up here, so now that things have changed down there in the States, except for Yellowstone, Montana, we have three herds up here. It is pretty much the only wild bison in North America. Uh, Now they have a different species in Canada called the wood bison, and they've transplanted some of those into Alaska. But for the plains bison, almost all of them are on private ranches around the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was pretty cool. That was 750 pounds of meat.
Wow.
I do all the processing myself. I've got the tools to do that and the know-how. I used to work on farms. I butchered animals, and I got about 58 animals myself in my life, and I've helped butcher over 150 others. So I've done over 200 animals in game processing. So I've got some skills, and I've made lots of mistakes and made some really bad sausage, and I know what to do more these days. Um,
Oh,
That's
uh,
a kicker, Ira. Man, you're doing amazing things, man, and you're all over the place. I love having you on, man, just to see all the exciting things that we're not taking part in. Me and Greg have to step our game up. But
yes, sir.
you mentioned large animals and being able to store some of that and having meat. With the huge salmon population, do you guys get in on any of that? I don't know if you even like salmon, but is that's something where you have the fresher meat, you're able to kind of freeze it up and make it through the cold winters, or how does that work
yeah,
with your way?
it is salmon season right now. So
Yeah,
last month I went out and I do some rod and reel fishing, and apart from my hunting, I take people out fishing too.
yeah.
Um, so I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, we I catch a lot of salmon. I have 40 sockeye salmon in the freezer already. Um,
Wow.
so it's not as much as I usually catch, but I mean my girlfriend's got two teenage boys, so those are hollow legs you got to fill up with food.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, fishing is a big part of what I do, and you can fish like tuna sandwiches, or you can grill it. I smoke a lot of fish, so that's a great way to do things.
Y-
Um, but another thing that kind of helped out, people have been taking me out hunting for years, and
Yeah,
I got permits. And I always figured there's got to be a way to give back and help other people now that I've been helped out for so much. And in 2020, I decided I was going to buy a side by side and then help make that work. And the High Fives Foundation hooked me up with a group in Texas called the Chive. And I knew about the Chive because, they got interesting news articles and pictures of girls in bikinis. Well, it wasn't really girls in bikinis. They have reader submissions of all the stuff. And it turns out they have really good cookies. So if you like guys, they have reader submissions from guys. And it's not porn or anything, but, it's bikinis or Speedos if that's your thing. Um, but it turns out they have a nonprofit. It's called Chive Charities. And we did an interview with them, and they wrote a pretty cool article about me. But yeah, they bought my Can-Am six wheel side by side pretty much free and clear. I had to pay for some of the upgrades and safety equipment, but that allowed me right away in 2020 to take a friend out with cerebral palsy who and
nice.
she had never been able to harvest an animal. Her dad did it for her, but we grew up together. I'd known her since we were like 8 years old. And yeah, and her husband had hunted things for her because if you have a severe disability, other people can hunt and fish for you in Alaska.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm sure they have that in a lot of other states. I don't know about all the states, but but the limit is you got to be 70% disabled, and that's not really high standard in the disabled world. Um,
Right.
and but yeah, we took her out hunting and we got her first ever caribou, and that was pretty awesome for her. And then she and her husband, because she can sort of ride snow machines if you put the handles on backwards, so you don't have to grip as much. But riding a four wheeler is really challenging for her because he doesn't have great grip strength with cerebral palsy. But being
Yeah.
strapped in with a racing harness into a side by side, yeah, that means you don't have to worry
Game
about
on.
your torso control. And then we shoot everything with a tripod because it's hard even for me to hold a rifle up, even with my reduced core stability.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I was able to take her out hunting. And a couple years later, I got uh, other people with disabilities getting a caribou, and we've gotten some moose for people. So I think I've helped eight caribou and four moose for people with physical disabilities since
Wow.
2020.
That's
Uh,
amazing
yeah,
work.
and I'm joining up with another nonprofit out of Texas to get insurance for taking people out. It's not all official yet, but it's pretty much a done deal for this year's hunting season. Then we'll be a full nonprofit. I can do some fundraising next year. But at least I got insurance to take people out, which is that
Right.
sort
That's
of
huge.
prevented me from taking people out I haven't known for years
Yeah.
because there's a lot of
I,
people with disabilities, and a lot of people, like don't get out very often and may not understand the hazards or dangers of getting outside. So we live in a litigious society, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
you got to protect yourself. So, but I do a lot of education, showing people how to shoot, how to hunt, how to go camping, and I got a lot of good equipment to do that. Big Agnes is a camping company and they do mountaineering equipment as well. But they gave me four big, large six-man base camp tents, and then I got
Wow.
eight down sleeping bags and a whole bunch of 4-inch air mattresses, so you don't have to worry about skin issues.
nice.
I'm working on getting some more cots because it's hard to get up and off the ground, but getting it from a cot to a
Yeah.
wheelchair is pretty nice. It's a pretty
Yeah.
simple transfer.
Right.
But yeah, that way I can take people with the disability and their helper out because I'm not really going to help people out. I'm not, I mean, I have paramedic training and a lot of EMT work and all that, but I don't think my mission in life to help people with their medical issues. But I give them the opportunity to bring a friend
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that person can help them with their medical issues or kids. Kids with disabilities sometimes just need more help in general.
Right. And that's
So
respite care in a general. You know, you got a community going on. You're teaching the next generation, and hopefully they can go on and teach the next. And,
yeah,
that's what
Saturday
it's
morning
about.
I'm going to be volunteering at a kids camp to teach people how to shoot all day.
Very nice.
It's not disabled, but it shows them some interaction with someone in the disabled community. Plus,
Yeah.
I'm about the same height as they are when I'm in my wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've done a lot of stuff in advocacy work with Safari Club International,
Yeah.
and then there's a guy I think you've had him on your podcast, Chad Welliger.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So it turns out that his cousin or his niece lives in Alaska and was a good friend of mine. And then I'm like, huh, yours has got the same name as this guy I met online, Chad. Are you guys related? He's like, oh yeah, he's my dad's cousin. And so Chad told me about this thing with Safari Club about an opportunity to go to Africa for people that help
Hmm.
out, do a lot of advocacy work in America.
Yeah.
And Safari Club discontinued that program, but the family that did it kept on going. They did some more fundraising and helped out. So it's Jan Olafse. It's a safari in Africa, in Namibia. And so I didn't think I'd really done enough and didn't think myself worthy of going on something like that because, all these other people do lots of things or have 20 years of helping out other people. And I've only been injured a short time technically. But anyway, I applied last year and got selected. And I've done a lot of this is like 10 more podcasts down the road, but I've done a lot of
Mm.
legal work and advocacy work in Alaska. And then Safari Club wrote me a nice letter, and the Adaptive Sports Group up here wrote me a nice letter about that. And so yeah, Maggie and I got to spend 3 weeks in Namibia last year. It was
Fantastic.
pretty much an all expenses paid trip, and it's a long trip from Alaska to get there. It's on the other
Oh
side of
Yes,
the
yeah.
sir.
world. Um,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I it was kind of cool because I was a wildlife biologist for a while, and when I learned how to tranquilize animals, the guy that started this safari club back in the 50s is the one who pioneered how to capture and tranquilize animals. They
Really?
did net guns with helicopters
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and herding animals with helicopters and then tranquilizing things. The stuff I learned in college was what this guy created. So that was kind of cool to learn about that I had a connection with his family.
Yeah. Life full
Uh,
circle, man.
It,
yeah.
think about how small the world actually is, Ira. I
Right.
mean, Mike's brother lives in the same town as you. Our buddy Chad, his cousin, you grew up with. You're very friendly with him. I mean, what's the odds that all of this isn't connected somehow, some way?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, I think his cousin's a newer transplant. She grew up in Texas, but anyway, we met through friends up here. But it's a very unique name, so I figured they got to be related.
Right. And you can't make that doesn't happen on a whim. It's just like, oh, that name's so awkward. Do you know anybody else? Yeah, yeah, a guy I know in Texas. You
Yeah.
know, that is
Uh,
fantastic, man.
yeah,
No,
so and this is was really cool. I mean, I am a pretty avid birder. I have a couple thousand birds on my bird list. Not all of them, but I got almost all the ones in Alaska. And I got some birds that people spend tens of thousands of dollars to come to Alaska to come see that last one bird on the bird list. Because we get a lot of transient birds from Asia and Russia and stuff that come through here.
Right.
So we get a lot of cool stuff. But I got to check off 300 birds off my bird list,
Wow.
and saw lots of animals, not just hunting, but we saw all kinds of stuff like lions, jaguar. We saw a cheetah way off in the distance. Um, Lots of different small cats and small game animals. There's no African Cape buffalo in this area because there's a lot of cattle ranching and those transmit diseases. So Namibia doesn't have any
Yeah.
Cape buffalo, and they actively keep them from coming into Namibia. But yeah, pretty much a lot of endangered species, pangolins, some aardvarks. We saw black and white rhinos, hundreds of them, which is pretty
wow.
cool to see
Wow.
endangered species that close.
Yeah.
And then, elephants, giraffes, zebras, there's lots of species, but it was pretty awesome. And then my hunting experience was I got to take 12 animals. So
Wow.
that was pretty good. I mean, the jackal and the baboons were more like pest prevention, I guess is the best
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
still, it was pretty cool to see all that stuff. And didn't legally bring home any meat back, but I may have brought back a bunch of biltong, which is their version of jerky.
Yeah.
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 And if you spread it out through your luggage, it didn't really red flag anything.
Well, that had to be an incredible trip for you and Maggie. I mean, 3 weeks in Africa,
Oh yeah.
hunting 12 animals, and I've never experienced a culture like that. It had to be, just so unique.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I've traveled in rural Alaska, and I've been to well over 50 countries that weren't Anglo-American, like Europe type countries. So I've
Hmm.
been all of South America, a lot of Asia, and Middle East type stuff. So yeah, every culture is different, but Africa was pretty cool. And we only spent a couple days in the community. I mean, all the game it's a game farm, but it's like 150,000 acres, and I think they added another
Right.
30 or 40,000 acres this year. They bought out
Wow.
some other cattle farms, so everything's wild. Uh, and the fences aren't really tall enough to stop the elephants from getting out, so they
Yeah.
just kind
Sure.
of
Yeah.
corral them to stay in the middle. Um,
Right. It's kind of a
uh,
suggestion.
yeah, and rhinos and elephants, they're big and they can go through any fence they want
Oh
anytime.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
things like jaguars can and cheetahs can jump and climb fences. So yeah, it keeps for the neighbors, it keeps the cows out so there's no diseases. Um, but yeah, it was really cool. And this group back in the 90s started taking people with disabilities out hunting. So their hunting lodge is fully wheelchair accessible, which is pretty cool. They have I think 12 rooms. One of them is really fully wheelchair accessible. The room I stayed in was a much nicer room, and it was wheelchair accessible enough to make it work.
Yeah, enough.
But
Right,
I mean,
right,
the other room you can get a full electric chair in there, and because you just take up more space in an electric chair than you do in a
Right.
manual chair.
right.
But yeah, it could totally do that. And the lounge, they built a spiral elevator to get you up there with a 2,500 pound Warren winch to crank it up
Wow.
out of steel. So it's kind of hokey, but it's got a cage to keep you in. So it's
Yeah,
as long as
yeah,
you
yeah.
roll onto the platform, they'll strap you in and lock the gate, and then you go up to the lodge. And the lounge, I guess, has great views and snacks and places for looking at animals and drinks. And
We
um,
we're all about redneck ingenuity, man. If you can
Absolutely.
make it with
yeah, but
a winch and a cable.
in the middle of Africa, this lodge was completely wheelchair accessible, which is pretty cool. And I'm tall and strong enough, I can grab onto a grab bar and lift myself into a truck for driving.
Yeah.
So that was helpful. But they said they've helped out people that were very high level quads
Oh yeah.
and
Sure,
strapped them in and made it work. They don't have a sip and puff trigger setup, but I'm sure if you needed that, you could bring your own at some point. But they
Yeah.
had ways to rig up all kinds of shooting stuff.
sure.
Um,
We've talked to Chad and we know, how he got around. When you were doing safari or whatever, was there any certain kind of equipment? How did they get you out to hunt those 12 animals?
it was all in Toyota Land Cruisers.
Okay.
So we drove around and looked for them off in the distance. A couple times we'll do what you call a stalk because they hear a truck coming and they run because that's just the normal thing. It's a predator.
Right.
So we got out and I rolled the wheelchair like half mile through the bushes, but it's all
Wow.
flat and sandy. So there were a couple times they had to get me out of the sand, but on the roads, it's as long as you avoid thorns, you're okay. And I
Yeah.
ran tubeless tires. We picked out a lot of thorns. So
Oh, no doubt.
yeah, everything in Africa tries to kill you. Everything.
Right.
The plants have
Including some
spikes.
of the animals.
The animals have sharp things. The plants have sharp things. So yeah, the racing sealant used in mountain bike tires worked just great. We kept the thorns out. Uh, and yeah, it was really good. But yeah, we drove around in the Land Cruiser, and a couple of times, I mean, some of the time they set up a sandbag on the hood and had me shoot off the sandbag, just shooting right off the hood. But
Right.
then a few of the animals we were out on shooting off a tripod. So
What was harder, Ira, doing the Boston Marathon or doing this hunt?
Boston Marathon was really hard. I did that in 2018. Yeah, 2018, and it was the coldest year ever, and I did that in my hand cycle. It was
Wow.
27 degrees and snowing when it started.
Oh man.
And Boston Marathon it's generally all downhill. You end up in
Right.
downtown Boston, and there's some rolly terrain, but it's a net elevation loss. Well, it comes from inland going towards the ocean. Well, there was a 20-mile-an-hour headwind the entire race. So going uphill was faster than going downhill because the downhills were into the wind and the uphills were in the lee side of the wind.
Well,
And about
that's
halfway through the race, it turned to freezing rain. So the roads were slick, and I'm a big guy and I put on some windproof clothing. It wasn't really waterproof. So I stayed drier than some people, and a lot of people dropped out because of hypothermia.
yeah.
And
Yes,
even all
sir.
the runners, they had big, huge space heaters inside these several thousand square foot tents to warm people up. It
I,
was cold and miserable. I don't have quad hands, and I shift with bike shifters, but
Yeah.
I would have been better off if I had quad shifters for a hand cycle
Yeah.
because I couldn't move anything below mid elbow because I was so
oh,
cold. And trying
Hey,
to get a gel
I,
pack to get me some more energy was like
yeah.
holding two hands together with my wrists
Hey,
and
that's quad movement right there.
trying to bite
That's
it and rip open a gel tab with
yeah,
my
I,
two
yeah.
wrists.
I,
Welcome to our world, man. That's what we do
Well,
anyway. But
and I'd been
but
around it enough. I go, okay, that's my only way. I got to do that because I'm running low on blood sugar. So I was like, but I couldn't open up any of my candy bars or anything like that because I couldn't open them because I didn't have fingers. So I
yeah,
had to, and I
be,
couldn't. A lot of those are pretty heavy duty Mylar granola bars, like the energy
yeah.
bars. So I couldn't open. I couldn't even bite them shut. But the gel packs are made to rip open. So I could pinch those off and make it work. Um,
You just had a smoothie instead of a gel pack.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that
Frozen
was
yogurt.
you know, control your mind and stubbornness gets you through a lot of things.
Absolutely.
But it was the coldest and most miserable Boston Marathon ever.
You know,
Buddy,
that's the thing, man. You're trucking on those bikes. You guys are able to generate some speed. You got downhill motions plus a lot of incentive to get out of the weather. You know, just keep that thing pedaling. Let's take it to the house.
Yeah,
I
I ended up pretty well on my time. I wasn't going for places. I ended up really high on the placing because I think a lot of people dropped out. But the
Yeah.
guy that won, he was like 45 minutes ahead of me, and he weighed 150
Wow.
pounds. He weighed 140 pounds less than me.
yeah,
So a lot less weight to drag around, a lot less wind resistance.
Yeah.
But I was under 2 hours, I think. But
that
Wow.
he was like an hour 10 on the marathon, which is pretty fast.
that's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing.
Especially
Yeah.
I
considering how cold it was. And he was, I think, from Florida. Um, but he
I
really wanted to get out of the cold weather.
I lived on the Cape for a year. It's actually where my spinal cord injury happened, and
Yeah.
Those New England winters are just no joke. I can remember pulling lobsters out of the Cape Cod Canal Christmas morning
Oh yeah.
to have fresh lobster, and man, you can freeze your butt off up there real quick, especially uh, on a hand cycle. You're going downhill. Your eyelids probably had frozen uh, icicles on them.
It was pretty cold. I think it was 35 degrees and raining at the finish. So
It's a good
Wow.
thing you had that
Wow.
Alaskan blood, man. You're ready to go. Cause Greg, I'm like you, man. I lived in Boston for a while. Lake Winnipesaukee is a cold joint, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Even in the
sir.
spring, it stays chilly.
you guys got the humidity. Up here, it's a drier cold, and it's not so bad. I'd rather be 40 below around here than like 0 degrees in some of those humid places.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really weird, man.
Different kind of cold for sure. But
Oh yeah.
I, this hour goes by so quick, buddy. I just want to kind of get back to after everything you've done, looking back in your stories. What do you want to be remembered for, in the future? What would you like people to know about hunting with a disability, skiing with a disability, about not giving up? What would you want to be remembered for?
I haven't really thought about that. Definitely having a strong will and mindset in order to be able to make things happen. Not everyone does that, but I definitely, I mean, unfortunately, I have to have a job to make money and pay my bills and all that. But I spend a lot of my time and energy trying to help others. Because people have helped me, and now I have a way to give back. At least I figured it out, so I know how to do things so I can help other people learn how to do those things.
Yes,
I'm not
sir.
going to say I'm an expert at stuff. I'm a pretty expert level at shooting. And but yeah, at least I've been able to take other people out camping with disabilities. And hopefully through the foundation and the nonprofit I'm going to officially start working with, I'll be able to take kids out because getting them started early with a disability gives them a mindset
Right.
that hey, this stuff is possible later on. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I have all the gear, and I'm just got to work on a little bit more fundraising and making sure I can get insurance to take kids out. But yeah, I'm super hopeful I'll be able to continue doing that. I'm in my early 50s, so I still got a lot of years left to go play.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
Ira, man, we truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. But man, you said something earlier that I've got to come back to, and it's about allowing people to see people with disabilities and understand they're still able to go and do too. And so, man, keep doing that and showing that empathetic dialogue, being able to spread that, and then mentoring to these younger generations that are coming up. That's huge, man. And we can't thank you enough for all you do, not for just the folks in Alaska, but of course, Africa and other places. Dude, you're setting an amazing set of steps. And there's a lot of shoulders that we got to still climb on.
Yeah, well, like I said, hopefully pretty soon this nonprofit will be the kind of one of those hunting nonprofits where people can apply and come on trips with me.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just taking out friends with disabilities, but my goal is to be able to do that. Now, I've actually never been on any of these other. I only started applying for some of these other things since I got back from Africa. So hopefully next year, when I have some more leave time, I'll get to go on some of these other nonprofits that take people out hunting because I've never hunted game outside of Alaska except for Africa.
We got to get
Um,
you down to the lower 48. And
yeah, no,
uh,
there's all kinds of stuff. But maybe someday I'll get to do all that. But Alaska's takes up a lot of your time anyway. There's a
yes,
lot to do
sir.
here.
Well, Ira, thank you so much for coming on. And buddy, would love to have you back on because I know we could talk for 4 or 5 hours about some of your adventures. And
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're really doing the right things. You're helping people, and we're proud to have you on and proud to know you.
Well, yeah, thanks. It's been great. I learned a lot from your podcast. There's a lot of different groups out there that help a lot of people. So I've chatted with some of them. Well, I got to get more leave time before I can go hunting with any of them. But yeah, there's a lot of cool groups you guys have had on.
We truly appreciate that, man. We get blessed every week, and you're one of those amazing guests. It's just slam full of knowledge, and man, we truly appreciate you coming on and celebrating that.
Yeah, no, Greg and I have been talking for like almost a year about coming on, just never really worked out. So
You're a
Hey,
busy man. You're a busy man.
absolutely.